This conference will now be recorded.
I'd like to call the Village of Ashwaubenon Public Work and Protection meeting for Tuesday, July 5 of 2022. Roll call, please.
Gary Paul,
Here.
Kelly Service,
Here.
Jake Krieger,
Here.
Joanne Euclid. Here. And John Burnett.
Here. Pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, action on minutes for June 7th.
Agenda.
On the, action on the agenda. Action on the agenda. Any corrections?
Move to approve.
Okay, there we go.
Second.
Second, first and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Action number 5, here we go. Public Works Protection Committee meeting on June 7th. Any corrections or comments there?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Item 6, comment from the public must be limited to items not on the agenda, must state name and address, limited to 5 minutes. Board role is to listen and not discuss the item. Personal issues cannot be discussed or individual names told. Board is not able to take action at this meeting. We have anybody out there viral that needs to talk? We got an empty room here. If nobody's got anything, we'll move on to action items. Action item number 1, action on temporary liquor license premise expansion for Boomerang Management, Inc., doing business as Epic Event Center. All right. Chris, you were on the first one.
So the Epic Event Center is having an event on August 28th called Epic Summer Bash 2022, and they'd like to extend their liquor license out into the parking lot like they did for this last event that they had. Attached is the map, and Jessica Abnett is on the go-to meeting to answer any of your questions.
Okay. Chief, first question I got in my mind is, how did the last event go that we approved a couple of weeks ago that did not have good reviews?
I was unaware of any issues from a public safety standpoint on the last event. The only issue we had with this event was where the bike racks were and blocking a fire lane. That's been resolved, as far as I know. This is regarding to putting maybe some tape or something across the walkway area from the bike racks to the building itself.
This is the present one that you're talking about?
Correct.
Okay. So, well, it's good to hear that the first one went over well. I'm glad to hear that. Another question that was brought up, I think, Jay, you brought it up, was security. How are we on security on that?
Well, for this event, I believe they have 4 off security personnel there. I don't believe we're going to have anyone extra at the event unless we're called in for various reasons.
Okay. Any other questions here?
I think I'd just like to ask Jessica there, going forward, I mean, you're doing a few of these events outside. Do you have any plans to maybe make this a little more of a permanent type of an outdoor venue?
I wish I had the answer to that. We're a new venue, so we're trying new things and seeing what works. I know we are doing the promoting part of, having 2 events at the Capital Credit Union Park this year as well, being that's tied into Boomerang Management together. So those, are events that we're producing at Capital Credit Union.
She froze.
She froze.
Oh,
There you go.
Am I
I think you
there?
came back. Yep, I think it's all good.
Okay, sorry. The idea to do taco margarita was kind of like, let's try it, see how it goes. We did have a third-party person come in and help us with that. And after the fact, realized this is something we can do on our own. We did most of the work ourselves. So if we do these events moving forward, they will be completely done, by Epic staff. So to answer your question, I don't know that it would be a permanent thing, but the one last 2 weeks ago went very well. We had no issues with safety. We had one Brown County officer on and 4 security guards there. We had 0 issues, which was fantastic. It was done at 6. People left. Everybody had fun, and it was a safe event. So it was a success, and we're going to try it again. And if it continues to be a success, it would be a kind of a summer thing for us, and utilize the parking lot. But I don't know how many, to answer your question.
Okay. I'm just thinking going forward, we're putting across tape and doing this, and it to kind of think about it and maybe get a little more secure and get a little more permanent if it's going to go on multiple times. Just a thought. No, at this point, no concern. I get where you're coming from. But if it's going to go forward, that's going to be something where, okay, we want to do, 3, 4 of these in the summer, we probably should think about how are we going to kind of make this fit even better, use of the parking lot and lock it down even better instead of just barricades and things like that.
Would you have suggestions, or have you seen other ideas that have worked? I guess I don't know what those other suggestions are,
It would be more
would
just
be.
it would be more permanent type of structures that would be built to kind of lock down that area. It could still be used as a parking area, but instead of doing, temporary barricades all the way around facilities like this, to actually put down a permanent type of barrier where you could still get cars in and out in certain spots, and you put temporary barricades there, but you still have a more permanent surrounding around the outside of it. Just a thought.
Okay.
So in other words, what you're saying, Jay, is something that is done permanently as their liquor license is
Correct.
permitted, which that would have to go to Chris. She could answer all those questions. I think we realize you're in your trial stage, you might say, and what works is good and what's bad you can eliminate. So I think it's a time thing for them, but it's a
Agreed.
good thought as far as rather than picking one item at a time, it'd be amended into their liquor license, so.
And if I may add just one thing, the challenge with their location is, they want to have people going to the venue inside and then out. We'll never get past that fire lane issue where we can't put permanent barricades up there.
Yeah.
Was that fire lane issue right in front of the building, chief?
Yeah, it's right in front of the entire
Yeah,
complex there.
I could understand that. Okay. Okay, any other questions? If not, can I obtain a motion?
Move to approve.
I'll second it if nobody is. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Or if not, motion approved. Item B, amending Ashwaubenon ordinance 7-4-100 prohibiting parking on San Luis Plaza from Willard Drive to Cormier near Parkview Middle School. Mr. Legal,
We're acting, practicing attorneys today.
We both stayed at a Holiday Inn last night, so.
Okay.
Right. I
We
like it.
got 2 of them instead of 1 tonight.
Right, so Patrick had put together this draft ordinance for committee review and approval. This comes from the request of both the school district as well as public safety to restrict parking, standing, or temporary stopping at all times on both sides of the street and this is on San Luis Place between Willard Drive and Cormier Road. Again, a lot of parking, standing activity during school drop-off and pickup times on that section of street. Again, just to try to keep that road open and available for access during those times, and that's the purpose of this particular ordinance.
Yeah, so the challenge right now is we have signage that say no parking, standing, or stopping. However, the ordinance doesn't read that. So we just need to change the ordinance so it coincides with the signs that are there now.
Okay. So the lineup's still going to happen?
Probably.
You know the lineup I'm referring to.
Until it starts to become actively enforced, then yes.
I mean, and I get it. And of course, with so many school choice coming in, it ends up being a problem.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that'll probably happen is once we start to enforce this as we can, it'll probably push these people over to like the community center or something like that. So we're just kind of moving them from one spot to the other to alleviate the congestion right in front of the school.
Yeah, that is definitely a safety issue right there with that T, no doubt about it.
And I never realized there was that much traffic there till I got caught in it one day, and I thought, holy mackerel, it is a problem. There's people parking wherever there's a hole. It's that
You
simple.
got
It
it.
could be your driveway. All right, any questions? Any other questions? If not, I'll need a motion for,
I make a motion to approve ordinance amending section 7-4-100 regarding no parking on San Luis Place.
I'll second.
you got a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Denial. Motion carried. Last but not least, creating a Ashwaubenon municipal ordinance, boy, the mouth ain't working tonight, 9-1-9 graffiti abatement. Mr. Legals.
All right, this particular ordinance obviously amends current municipal code as it relates to graffiti abatement. So this is in regards to graffiti that may be tagged, if you will, or placed on private property. Certainly, would be public property as well, but where this stemmed from is a conversation we had internally where we had some graffiti situations recently. And not that we had any present property owners or business operators that were having problems removing the graffiti. But we talked internally, and many communities have an ordinance of a similar nature that requires an owner or operator to remove that graffiti within a time frame that is reasonable in order to discourage further graffiti artists from appearing in your community and tagging additional buildings or property. So with this particular ordinance, if we become aware of a graffiti situation, we have the ability to provide written notice, either by mail or direct service to that owner, operator, business. Within 14 days, then they have to remove that graffiti. If they fail to do so, we have the ability to issue a citation to that owner, operator, or business, and then also basically remove the graffiti through some type of personal service or direct service contract with another vendor, and then assess those costs back to that owner operator to have that graffiti removed. Again, the intent here is not to punish the individual that was tagged, but more importantly, have that individual remove the graffiti, because it's found that the quicker you remove the graffiti, the less likely graffiti will continue to happen. In particular, those artists, if you will fail to return because they're discouraged by the fact that their artwork has been removed so expeditiously. So that's essentially what the ordinance is. I don't know, Chief, if you have any other comments on that. But
No, I mean, this is essentially the broken windows theory of policing, right? So we don't want to have these kind of tagging incidents happen in the village. When I first moved here a couple years ago, I was very impressed. There was virtually no graffiti in the village, and I'd like to keep it that way. A lot of graffiti really is about sending messages to their gangs or other gangs. That's really what it's about. So if we can continue to have the owners or people remove this, the people that are doing this will get frustrated and they won't do it anymore. And so that's really what we're looking for. I don't know, as Joel said, we don't really have necessarily a problem. There is a business that did get tagged and the graffiti is still there. However, they are in the process of working on getting that removed, which is really all we want to do, and just make sure that that doesn't take too long to do that so we don't have further issues within the village. Because once that gets started, these rival gangs go back and forth and they start tagging, and it just kind of gets out of control, and we don't want to do that. We don't have that happen.
And our parks do get tagged from time to time, and whether it's intentional gang activity or just kids fooling around. So we do have quite a bit of experience in removing that graffiti, and we talked internally too. Again, not looking to punish anyone. We're just looking at this as a tool or a resource. If we need to use it, it's available to us. At the end of the day, we're working to try to educate and inform those private property owners or those business operators and provide them resources on how to remove that appropriately with the appropriate type of materials, equipment, and chemicals if necessary.
The first thing that pops up in my mind, can we say graffiti is a mural? You know, that murals are a hot thing around different areas. They think they're cool pictures of whatever they're believing in, you know. Are we going to keep that under the graffiti language?
I think, I think a mural wouldn't necessarily qualify under the definition of graffiti because its intent isn't to deface the property. Whereas graffiti, that's the purpose, and the intent is to deface the property for the purposes of displaying some type of image or language or something to that effect to elicit a response from another party. If it's a mural, those things can be addressed through plan commission, through site plan and sign ordinances and things of that nature. But it wouldn't necessarily meet the definition of graffiti because it has a purpose beyond just defacing the property.
Because my thought was kind of along the lines, Gary, I get it, but I can see somebody on their own private property doing something. A matter of fact, when I was in Pleasant Prairie this weekend, I went by this farm that's just, and on his silo, he's got this great big spray painted picture, basically, and it's an owl and all kinds of things on it, which could definitely fall into underneath the terms of graffiti, because it's just spray painted on there. But that was my only concern, is the grade.
Yeah, I think though the comparison between the two is the mural may be something that is wanted, something that a private person actually puts on their own. Graffiti is not something that they want on there, right? That's a message that they don't want on their business, their home. They didn't ask or have someone put it on there. It was done against their will. So I think that's kind of really the deciding factor that would help us alleviate that.
Yeah, I get that part of it. My concern is if somebody comes into the community and they see somebody who did that mural, and they go, oh, well, they must allow graffiti here, and I have no suggestion how to fix that. I'm just pointing it out. So
I have a problem with the removal part. Can you just spray paint over it? Does it have to be sandblasted off? I mean, you're really kind of vague on that.
Yeah, I mean, the individual property owners would have their choice of how they want to remove that. We could certainly provide them with suggestions to do that. I mean, you could simply paint over it if you want to, depending on what they wanted. That's a really cheap solution. So, for example, I'm thinking of this business now. It's kind of a off-white color where it is. They can just go use off-white and, use a roller and paint over it and it'd be gone.
Okay.
I just want to say that you can buy, I know being in the sign business, you can buy chemicals or solutions that does remove spray paint from signage. When you get to textured things like concrete would be the first one. You paint it naturally like you said, but to get rid of it properly, you pretty much have to sandblast it.
And as I imagine this, I'll echo what Joel said. If people have questions on how to remove that, we can certainly put that in there and say, these are some suggestions with how to remove something.
Okay, any other questions? If not,
I'll move to approve.
there you go.
Second.
First and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Items for next agenda, check with staff, see if they are interested in putting on your thoughts. If not, let's have an adjournment motion.
So moved.
Second.
First and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you for coming.